Alright guys, I'm not gonna lie. I kinda love Sonic the Hedgehog. Even at the lowest lows, this damn hedgehog always puts a smile on my face. I'm willing to look past a lot of the bullshit this series has put me through just because I love these characters. Sonic Frontiers really reignited a love for this series I haven't truly felt in a long time. But this video isn't about Sonic Frontiers. It's about my personal favorite Sonic game. The first Sonic game I really played that got me obsessed with this series and its characters. The game I purchased for my PC from the Scholastic Book Fair. The Sonic game I go back to the most. The Sonic game that was almost perfect.
Oh, so you're talking about Sonic Adventure?
No, not that one.
Sonic Adventure 2?
Nope, not that one either. Yup, Sonic Heroes was the first Sonic game I ever played. Now sure, I was kind of familiar with the character already. My grandparents had a Genesis with Sonic 1. Although I never played it myself, I always watched my grandma play it. So when I saw Sonic Heroes at the Scholastic Book Fair of all places, I knew I had to have it. I bought it and took it home that day. Installed it to the PC my family had in the living room and started playing. I was immediately drawn in by the visuals and the music, but I feel like we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Sonic Heroes was released in 2004 for every major platform. Sonic Team didn't want to make Sonic Adventure 3, as they wanted to make a game that would have a wider appeal, by downplaying elements of the previous games to make it more accessible for more people. The story is basic and the gameplay has been simplified. This isn't inherently a bad thing. The intention with the game was always to go closer to the Genesis game's roots. It was Sonic's first time on Xbox and PlayStation, so I understand why Sega and Sonic Team wanted to have a simpler game that would be easy to jump into. Don't get it wrong, there's still continuity with callbacks to the adventure games, but Heroes really was designed to be a potential first Sonic game for people. So speaking on that, let's discuss the story here real quick. There's 4 campaigns, and each team gets their own story. Team Sonic, Rose, Dark, and Chaotix. Team Sonic gets a letter from Eggman saying he's going to take over the world, so they better come stop him. Team Rose are looking for Cream's Chow and Big's pet Froggy, because Sonic stole them apparently. Team Chaotix are a detective agency who get a job offer from a mysterious voice on a walkie-talkie. And Team Dark is the most interesting. See, Shadow the Hedgehog died in the last game, or did he? He's back in this game after Rouge the Bat finds him locked up alongside a brand new character, Omega. An Eggman robot, and one of my personal favorite characters in the series. Heroes would attempt to do a bit of storytelling to explain why Shadow's here, but most of that story is told in the follow-up game, Shadow the Hedgehog. So aside from that, as you play as the different teams during the stories, you'll run into other teams for rival boss fights, and even have encounters with fake Eggmen. What's really going on here? Well, we can get more into that later. So Sonic Heroes still carries the continuity from prior games while still making an accessible entry point for new fans. Exactly what Sonic Team wanted. But that's not the only thing Sega did to make the game more accessible. They changed up the gameplay style and streamlined the whole experience. While I think this could have been a really good thing for this game, the execution fell a little flat. So even though there's 4 different teams with 12 playable characters, there's really only 3 different play styles. Every team has a speed, flight, and power character, so every team plays exactly the same. I actually like this. I love Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, but there always hits a point in those games where it comes to a screeching halt, whether it's Big's fishing or the mech levels. So having a game that's mainly focused on the speed is a good idea. You swap between the 3 different characters during the levels to deal with platform challenges or large group of enemies. However, I mentioned execution earlier. See, one of Sonic Heroes' biggest issues, and the main problem people have with it, is the control. The adventure games had near perfect control, but for some reason, Sonic Heroes cranked the speed up to 100. The sense of speed in this game is kind of a spectacle, but controlling any of the speed characters can feel super unreliable, especially in later levels with really precise platforming sections. So play as the flight characters instead, as they go at a snail's pace. It makes tight platforming easier, but traversing levels with them is such a drag. Maybe we'll find a happy medium with the power characters. They're not as fast as speed, not as slow as flight, and they specialize in enemy combat, but even they aren't perfect, as using certain attacks will send your character flying, and if you aren't careful, you'll go straight off an edge. Man, there's really no winning. So the controls in this game suck. Why even play it? Well, if there's anything Sonic fans can get used to, it's jank. Sonic Heroes is probably one of the jankiest 3D Sonic games, but that's arguably where the charm comes from. The more you play the game, the more you get used to it. If it sounds like I'm coping because this is my favorite Sonic game, then you're 100% correct. Looking past the flawed gameplay, Sonic Heroes has a lot of stuff that I absolutely adore, like the level design and general aesthetic. When Sonic Team wanted to go back to their Genesis roots, they really meant it. Heroes levels really feel like classic Sonic brought into 3D, not only through how they're designed, but how they look. Gone are the realistic temples and cities and other environments from Adventure. Heroes takes the art style in a more cartoony direction. Seaside Hill is the perfect first Sonic level. Not only does it give you a feel for the controls and all the character playstyles, but it's just fun to go through. It's vibrant and full of life. It's a shame Sega just reuses Green Hill all the time when they could easily make level themes like this that have elements from Green Hill, but still make it its own thing. Heroes is really good at taking ideas from prior games and adding unique twists to them. A technologically advanced city with laser paths, a casino park with bingo mechanics, a rainy jungle with giant frogs, a sky fleet with the hardest enemies in the game. The level themes here can be familiar but still feel new. There's also tons of set pieces that really stand out and help make the levels feel incredibly memorable. But unfortunately, there's a catch here. See, even though these levels are all really cool and a lot of fun to go through, you're forced to go through them 4 times. 4 entire playthroughs to complete the game, 1 for every team. We'll talk more about how this could have been fixed later, but real quick, let's talk about difficulty. Because even though playing as every team is required, the teams are all separated by difficulty. Team Rose is easy, Sonic is medium, and Dark is hard. Chaotix is Chaotix. Honestly, the only real difference between the levels as different teams is how long they are and how many obstacles you'll have to put up with. This means while a Team Rose level can take 6 minutes to beat, that same level for Team Dark can be close to 20 entire minutes. Did you have fun running from giant rocks as Team Sonic? Well, look forward to doing it again as Team Dark. Again, not an awful thing, but the repetition makes beating the game a daunting task. So if those first 3 teams are the main difficulties, where does that leave the Chaotix, who in this game are making their grand return, having not appeared since Knuckles Chaotix on the 32X? Well, as mentioned earlier, they're members of the Chaotix Detective Agency, and the start of their story is them getting a job from a mysterious voice. Because of this, and to spice up the gameplay I suppose, Chaotix levels are mission-based. Sure, sometimes the mission is just getting to the end goal, but most of the time it's destroy every enemy in a level, or find hidden objects scattered throughout the level, or use Espio's invisibility power to remain undetected for an entire level. And honestly, I don't hate these. Sure, it's insanely repetitive, seeing as this is likely your 4th time going through the same levels, but I think giving you specific missions and tasks to complete is a fun idea. I can definitely understand the hate though, but me personally, I'm a Chaotix defender. I have ideas on how this could have been implemented better, but we'll talk about that closer to the end of the video. So we've talked about the stories, teams, and levels. What else could there be to talk about? Sonic Heroes has one hell of a soundtrack. The game is super in your face from the get-go with its main theme, and I think it sets up the tone for the game perfectly.
What goes up must come down. Yeah, my feet don't touch the ground. See the world spinning upside down. A mighty crash without a sound.
Then the first level hits you with some incredible flair. Every track fits the level perfectly, from Grand Metropolis's techno beats to Hang Castle's spooky arrangements. It helps that every level has a distinct theme. Vocal tracks are also splendid. We already discussed the main theme, Sonic Heroes, but every individual team gets their own theme.
Look out down below. Sonic is on the go. Can't stop this party till we save the world.
Team Sonic has a very upbeat sound that's reminiscent of City Escape, and it doesn't matter.
As a team we can become even stronger. Together we can overcome all the odds.
It's sung by the same people even, so I'm glad this sound has carried over.
Everyone can do something special.
Team Rose's theme has a very familiar feel. Its instruments have a very adventure-esque sound to them, but it's the vocals that make this song really stand out.
All the best in life, I wanna get it for you. Lately I just feel so fine. I imagine that you're mine. In my world you're gold. I only wanna protect you whenever I want.
Team Dark is awesome. It uses a lot of heavy guitars that we wouldn't hear more of till the next game.
Shadow of myself, just who am I? Scan horizons, a tragic mystery.
Plus, it has an underlying electronic beat.
That is me. We are destined fire. Trapped in this machine. Don't know how long
It really brings it all together and fits the vibe of the team so well. Team Chaotix just has the best theme. I don't know. They're all pretty good, but for some reason the Chaotix one just goes harder than the rest. The final boss song is also pretty great. More of that Crush 40 goodness, and it fits the fight pretty well.
And what you're thinking as you turn to me. 'Cause what I have in my 2 hands is enough to set me free.
But I don't think it holds much of a candle to Live and Learn.
To resist it over time. But when
Jeff, you forgot to talk about the last story and final boss.
Okay. So like Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes has a final story that unlocks after you complete every team's story mode. And honestly, I'll be for real, if just playing through every team's story to the end to get here was all you had to do, I'd be okay with that. It would still be repetitive, but at least it wouldn't be soul-crushingly difficult. So Sonic Heroes requires you at any point during your journey to collect the 7 Chaos Emeralds. You do this by finding keys in a level. Every level has a key, but only the ones in the second act of a zone take you to the special stage. And you better be careful, because if you get hit after collecting the key, it goes away. And you have to scour the level to either find another one or restart the level. So beating the stage with a key takes you to the special stage, where you have to traverse down a transparent pipe and collect colored orbs to boost and catch the emerald. If you fail to catch it, you're kicked out and have to start all over again. And let me tell you, you will fail to catch it. From the awful controls, especially when you're boosting, to the rows of spikes that are nearly impossible to avoid, to the incredibly strict time limit, these are without a doubt some of the worst special stages in Sonic history. Gosh, Sonic Team wasn't kidding when they said they wanted to go back to the Genesis roots. This is awful.
Sounds like a skill issue to me. Take the L, Jeff. I think you're just bad at video games.
It's just not fun, and I don't know why they need to be here. Adventure 1 and 2 had the Chaos Emeralds play an integral role in the story, so by the time they needed to be there for the final boss, they were already there. Here, Eggman just says,
We can't defeat it! If only we had the 7 Chaos Emeralds!
and suddenly every team just has them out of nowhere. It would have been way better if they found a way to just incorporate them into the story. But speaking of the story, let's talk about the finale. So here we find out the mysterious voice that's been guiding the Chaotix here was no other than Dr. Eggman himself, who's been trapped in a room on his own fleet. Who could have done this to him?
All living things kneel before your master.
This makes a lot of sense as to why the Eggman we all fought earlier were all robotic decoys, and why certain character cutscenes even teased Metal Sonic. His plan was luring them all here to copy their abilities or something, and take them all out, even overtaking Eggman to do so. This isn't just Metal Sonic, this is Neo Metal Sonic. But he's not just Neo Metal Sonic, because once all the teams team up to take him out, he transforms. and we get the first half of the boss fight. This is Metal Madness. It makes you play as teams Rose, Dark, and Chaotix on small little platforms doing various things to damage the boss. After this frankly boring segment, you get to the real final boss, Metal Overlord. Metal Sonic's like a huge dragon now, and only Super Sonic can stop him. I guess Knuckles and Tails are here too. Yeah, even though Super Knuckles and Super Tails are real things that exist, in Sonic Heroes all they get are these glowy orbs. It's kinda lame, but the final boss theme ain't that bad. The song that plays during it does a good job at hyping you up. Beat the final boss, and all is right with the world. Neo Metal Sonic reverts to his regular form, Amy continues to chase after Sonic, the Chaotix attack Eggman after realizing he isn't going to pay him, and Shadow robots. Yeah, so the whole Team Dark story carries this ongoing plot of Shadow having amnesia, and as we progress, we find out Shadow robots exist, and start to wonder if the Shadow we're playing as is even the real Shadow. Something they'd go more into in the next game. So yeah, that's Sonic Heroes' story. It's simple, sure, but I don't think it's bad. There's some entertaining stuff here, mainly with the Chaotix. Neo Metal Sonic is a really cool character. I wish he would show up again in some way, not counting comics, of course. I find the stuff with Shadow to be interesting. Of course, they couldn't keep a character as popular as Shadow dead, but the possibility of him being a robot is a neat idea, even if that subplot wouldn't reach any kind of conclusion till the next game. Hey, I just realized I completely forgot to talk about boss fights. They're whatever. If it's not fighting the same Eggman robot twice, but one's above a bottomless pit, it's fighting just waves of basic enemies. And if it's not those, it's the boss fights against other teams. These are neat just for the cutscenes that play before where we get to see the teams interacting. I like Amy's entire thing here is just forcing Sonic to marry her, and Vector says this.
Just what do you think you're doing here?
Who's this fraud?
But the fights themselves aren't anything to write home about. It's just a confusing mess of characters jumping around and doing specials. It can be extremely disorienting to even see what's going on. The Egg Emperor is a real cool design though, even if the boss is kinda easy and boring. Yeah, that sums up Heroes boss fights. Alright, I think we mainly talked about all there is to discuss with Sonic Heroes. Yeah, there's multiplayer and emblems and all that, just like the adventure games. What we talked about here today is what makes Sonic Heroes unique. Sure, it does have problems, and I'll go more into those in a second, but Sonic Team wanted to make a more classic feeling game that could be picked up by anyone, and I think they mostly succeeded. It's absolutely gorgeous, has a whole stack of characters, a great soundtrack, it's just fun. A lot of people cite this game as the beginning of Sonic's Dark Age, because after this was Shadow in 06, but I disagree. I think Heroes set out to do exactly what it wanted. It just didn't stick the landing quite as well as we hope it could have. So let's talk about that title, the almost perfect Sonic game. Well, I genuinely believe this game was really close to being perfect. Most of the flaws I pointed out are enough though for people to swear off this game completely, and it's a shame they're present in the game to begin with. That being said, let's play around with some ideas. What would I do to fix all the little problems in Sonic Heroes? Heroes has 14 levels, and you have to play each of them 4 times. So what if instead each team got to play a specific set of levels? For my example here, let's have Team Sonic go through Seaside Hill, then end up in Grand Metropolis, then Casino Park, then Team Dark could go Ocean Palace, Power Plant, Bingo Highway. Just split the levels up among the teams. As for Chaotix, I actually think they should still go through with their missions and everything. Just cut their level count in half or something so they only play the first acts or something, and change up the missions. The ones where you have to destroy everything in a level suck. I'd much prefer more like the Chow Hunting or Espio Stealth levels. Those kind of levels add a bit more depth and make exploring the levels more of an incentive. Next, get rid of the special stages. Just have the Chaos Emeralds be a part of the plot. I don't know how I would write it, but just make it so every team already has 2 or something, and then Eggman can come in as a surprise and say he has the last one. It wouldn't add much to the story, but it would make getting to the final story a lot easier. Then we can change character controls slightly. Turn the speed down on the speed characters. They go way too fast, and it's often unreliable to platform with them. Just slow them down a bit. Sonic controlled perfectly fine in the adventure games. If he played like that here, it would be great. And finally, make it so the flying characters aren't always carrying everyone. There's super brief parts of the game where you can control the flying characters on their own, and it's cool. This is how they should have controlled all along. Only when you tap the jump button twice should the other characters grab on and you can fly. But at the end of the day, this is a 20-year-old game. I can talk about how I would fix it, but it doesn't matter. Sonic Heroes is the way it is. And honestly, I still love it. Sonic Heroes is a very important game to me, not only being my proper introduction to Sonic, but also the first video game I ever beat on my own. I don't even know how I did it, but I very vividly remember fighting Metal Overlord on my PC placed in the family living room. Heroes was so fascinating to me as a child. It made me branch out and look at other Sonic media. Heroes and X altered my brain chemistry as a kid. I thought Sonic was the coolest thing in the entire world. world. 20 years later, as an adult, I can safely say Sonic is still the coolest thing ever. Thank you guys so much for watching. Real quick, I just want to give some shout outs. I want to shout out Rose.mauve and Row Reviews for lending me their voices for this video. Check out their channels in the description below. They both have some really cool videos about Sonic. I also want to shout out my brand new Patreon supporters, RelentlessKaijuFan, Gloomy, and Whirly. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. I appreciate it so much. And I want to thank everyone for watching and making it to the end of the video. Your support means the world to me.